and welcome everyone. My name is Mary Jiang, and I'm the president of the Oakland Rotary Club. Founded in 1908, we are the third oldest club of some 36,000 clubs in over 200 countries around the world. We are a diverse community of 270 business professionals and community leaders who unite to serve our local and international communities through a commitment to service above self. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our 5,409th meeting in the Zoom today. For over 114 years, we have welcomed Rotarians and guests to our club meetings. We just wanted to appreciate you coming on Zoom. There was a problem with some double booking at the ballroom, so we had to pivot quickly and convert everything to Zoom. And I'm hoping that nobody's at the ballroom today. So now for our thought for the day, I'd like to welcome Robert Kidd.
Thank you, President Mary. I offer this thought for the day courtesy of David Brooks, the columnist in the New York Times and the commentator on public broadcasting. David Brooks tells us that if during the course of a month you meet a jerk, well, so you've met a jerk, get over it. On the other hand, if you meet a jerk every day, you might want to consider the possibility that the jerk is you. David Brooks.
Thank you, Robert, for that court sense of humor thought for the day. That's cute. Okay, the vision statement. Could we pull up the vision statement?
Just a moment.
Okay, so we recite along with me if you want to unmute. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Thank you. So guests are welcome to visit our club either in person or online. Do we have any visiting Rotarians or guests online? If so, put your name on the chat and then we will recognize you later. Now, today, I'd like to note that Ruth Strove have put in the chat that she has 4 tickets to tomorrow's Oakland Symphony to donate. Would someone contact Ruth if you're interested in going to the symphony tomorrow night? She has 4 tickets to donate. Thank you, Ruth, for your generosity. All right, we do have some visiting Rotarians, so I'd be happy to announce them. Jesse, is that all right?
Yeah, you can announce them.
Yeah, you can. All right, well, yeah. We have Maggie Castillo from Reverse Mortgages. We have our speaker, John Mathers, Rotary Club of San Francisco. And we have Martha Garaca, Rotary Club of Delta Antioch. And as more members come on board, we will recognize them. So today, I have the privilege of inducting our 11th new member of the Oakland Rotary Club. Can we spotlight Ramona Chang?
Give me just a moment here. I'm trying to find her in the list. Here we go. Oh. Hold on. Keep talking. I'll get her on here in just a second. Ramona, okay. Forgive me.
Yeah. So as her sponsor, I will introduce Ramona with 2 interesting facts about her. Ramona Chan has been a realtor since 1972. But the real interesting note that she wants to convey is that in 2021, both her dad, Hank Chang, and her cousin, Maggie Ji, were awarded the Chinese Congressional Medal of Honor posthumously for their military service in World War II. What was remarkable about this medal was that 20,000 Chinese Americans, including Ramona's dad, her cousin, and my father-in-law, volunteer for military services, despite the fact that the Chinese Anti-Exclusion Act deprived Chinese Americans the right to citizenship. So they were not allowed to be citizens, yet they served their country, similar to what the Japanese American did during World War II. In fact, her cousin Maggie was the first Asian American female aviator in World War II. That's a great accomplishment. Second interesting fact, her mom, Barbara Chang, was a former Oakland Rotarian. Her family was considered the first Chinese to settle in California Monterey Bay because the Chinese junks used to sail in the trade winds to California. So every year during Asian Heritage Month, she said KQED would showcase pictures of her great-grandfather, Jung Sung Choi, on TV. So this coming May, we should check QKED and see if we can find Ramona's great-grandfather. Ramona, welcome to the Oakland Rotary Club. You are joining 270 Rotarians in our club and over 1.4 million Rotarians throughout the world. Because we are meeting in Zoom, I have a bag of goodies to give you when we next meet in person, which includes your red badge to signify you are a new member. Then you will also receive the 4-way test, which guide Rotarians in their daily lives as follow, and we can pull that up.
I'm getting there.
Great. Oops. All right, so the 4-way test is govern how we act and perform. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, in addition, in this goodie bag, you would get the Rotary pin. And the Rotary pin is wear this proudly because wherever you go, you can attend meetings at any Rotary clubs in the world because they'll recognize you as a Rotarian. So, and then finally in the goodie bag, there will be a handbook called Rotary Made Easy, which provide useful information about our club, and also a roster with your 270th newest best friends. Finally, you will also receive a centennial book written by our very own Rotarian Linda Hamilton, covering 100 years of Rotary history. Your commitment as a new member is to attend meetings in person or via Zoom, practice service above self, participate in community service activities, and contributing to the Rotary Foundation and Oakland Rotary Endowment. It is my privilege and pleasure to induct you as the newest member of the Oakland Rotary Club. Let's give Ramona a warm welcome by clapping, wave your hand, push your arm, finger. Okay, and fantastic. So Ramona, I will reserve that goodies bag for you when we meet in person next time, hopefully on November the 17th. All right. At this time, all right, Joe Garaka, November is the Rotary Foundation annual fundraising campaign month. Could you tell us more about it?
Sure, Mary. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Rotary gives us opportunities to make a difference. And as Mary mentioned, November is Rotary Foundation Month, the start of our fundraising campaign. Thank you all for your generous donations last year. We set records, allowing us to do more good in the world. This year, we continue the President's Participation Challenge. A small group of Rotarians will donate a total of $50,000 if significantly all members participate at some level, minimum $25. So let's get out there and participate. This year, new is a rewards program, matching points. Your donations up to $500 will be matched with Paul Harris Fellow points. Points are credited to your Rotary Foundation account making it easier to obtain a Paul Harris Fellow or a next level up. Next week, you will receive a flyer in the mail with a pledge card plus instructions on how to donate. You can donate online through Rotary.org, as Tom showed us last week, or send a check or credit card information to the Oakland Rotary office. And today, if you want, you can donate in the chat box. Just note for the Rotary Foundation. Or of course, call Jesse or me or any Rotary Foundation committee member for help. Don't miss this opportunity to save and improve lives and the world. Those that give often say the life touched was their own. Your donations go to RI and then come back to Oakland number 3. Our Carl Stuckey World Community Service Committee selects and oversees projects, and they do an excellent job. Today, I want to highlight a project you supported through the Rotary Foundation. Oakland number 3 partnered with a graduate student at Cal Berkeley, go Bears, Michael Bakal. We have been working with Michael via Voces and Manos for over a decade, working to improve the devastating effect of climate change on local agriculture. To make this happen with Peter Sheriff's leadership, we raised $180,000 from 55 individuals, 12 clubs, and 7 districts. This project was recently featured in the September 2022 Economist magazine. Noting one effect of this project is that local indigenous families can sustain themselves and not have to immigrate to other areas. I will let Michael tell you about it via video as power is being repaired in Rabinal, Guatemala. Do we have the video?
Yep, it's coming.
Thank you, Duh.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Bakal. I'm one of the co-founders of Voces y Manos, and it's a pleasure to be able to tell you a little bit about Rotary Grant 212-5542, Adapting Family Agriculture to Climate Change through Youth Leadership in Rabinal, Baja Verapaz, Guatemala. This is a project that was really started and sustained with leadership from Rotary Oakland and a whole range of other Rotary clubs as well. I want to start by talking about the Sistema Milpa, the system of growing crops in Guatemala, which has been called by some one of the most successful human inventions ever created. And what makes it so remarkable is that it integrates crops that are highly synergistic with each other, specifically corn, beans, and squash. And they're both nutritionally complementary and also agriculturally complementary, with beans and corn providing a perfect complement of protein, and also with beans depositing nitrogen into the soil, allowing people to really have a system of farming that does not require extensive inputs and can be sustained for many years. What this project is about is responding to an existential threat that this cultural and agricultural system faces. That's the threat of climate change. In 5 of the past 7 years, farmers have lost the majority of their crops as a result of drought. And what we're trying to do through this project is empower youth to sustain livelihoods, to sustain agriculture in this region of the world. This project is really fundamentally about believing in the power of young people to create change. This is the young people in Voces y Manos wearing their Rotary and Voces y Manos uniforms. Thanks to you, many young people have had a stipend that have allowed them to do what we consider to be and what they consider the best job they could possibly imagine, which is working to make their communities stronger and more resilient to climate change. Our vision is really that these young people will lead the way towards a more bright and sustainable future for their communities. We do this through a process called agroecology. It's about sustaining a healthy ecosystem and thriving agriculture at the same time. There's many components of this work, but today I want to talk about 3 highlights: vaccination, seed saving, and soil conservation. First of all, vaccinations. It may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about helping people survive in the face of climate change, but part of the strategy that we've been promoting is diversifying the range of ways that people can sustain themselves. And certainly raising chickens is one of the ways people have done that. With vaccinations, which only cost 10 cents each, we can increase the survival rate of chickens from something like 50% to 90 or 95%. So this is very important in sustaining a key source of livelihoods of families. And in fact, this project has recuperated 40% of its cost just through this one activity alone. Soil conservation is one of the key strategies we've been using. Many of the farms that are owned and managed by farmers in Guatemala are on steep hillsides, and contour barriers helps make sure that when a big rainstorm comes through, it doesn't wash away people's precious and limited topsoil. Here's a picture of one of our agricultural outreach workers, Adilter, showing people how to create even contour barriers to prevent runoff of topsoil. Another key strategy for conserving topsoil is planting trees. We've planted tens of thousands of trees through this project. And it's incredibly gratifying to see just how excited people in the community are about planting these trees. They understand the fundamental threat that climate change poses to their communities, and they know that tree planting is one thing that they can do to help preserve the local ecosystem, preserve topsoil, conserve water. And people have just been absolutely thrilled to plant trees, both forest trees as well as fruit trees. Here we see a picture of one of the participants in our program planting a lemon tree. Finally, seed saving. Genetic diversity is one of the things that makes the Mesoamerican region famous. And this genetic diversity is critical to help making sure that populations of corn and beans are resilient to new pests that might be introduced into the population. Native seeds also are important because they can be harvested and replanted, allowing people to be self-sustaining and to not need to return to the agricultural supply store every time they want to do a new corn harvest. One of the most popular activities we've done through this project was a seed swapping activity. People were absolutely thrilled to be able to plant heirloom varieties of corn and beans that they thought had been lost to their community. Here's a picture of what we can achieve and what we've been able to achieve with these techniques. A really robust harvest and people happy to be able to be contributing to the local ecology at the same time. By the numbers, this is some of what you've helped us achieve. We're incredibly grateful. We think this global grant has made an enormous difference. And we believe that, it really sets a model for the kind of change that can be implemented in the region. Currently, we're supporting 250 families. We hope to expand that to 500 families. We're so grateful for your support. On behalf of all of us at Voces y Manos, a huge thank you. And we believe that with your ongoing support, with ongoing collaboration from people, NGOs, governments, so on and so forth, it's not too late to make the picture on the right a reality, a bright, healthy, vibrant future, and avoid the kind of scenarios that will take place if we don't intervene to make a difference on climate change. So from all of us at Voces y Manos, thank you so much.
Great. I think it's my turn. Listen, I'm Shannon Hackley, and that's Michael Bakal, UC Berkeley, Go Bears, and a Fulbright Fellow. I was fortunate enough to actually travel to Rabanal, Guatemala, to tour this project with Jan Stuckey, Carl Stuckey's daughter, a few years back. And I have to tell you, this project checks all the boxes. Develops youth, education, combating climate change, increasing economic prosperity, reducing migration, and also enriching the lives of Rotarians who are involved. So why should we help people around the world when we've got so much to do here at home? That's a regular question. The fact is that our Oakland Rotary Club spends most of its money in the city of Oakland. We spend a small percentage of our dollars on international. So we're asking you to please give part of your charitable giving to the Rotary Foundation. And why the Rotary Foundation? As a 4-star rated from the Charity Navigator, most of the money, 100%, is spent on the projects. Rotary gives us a safe vehicle to give when there is a natural disaster. Who gives to the United States when we're having devastating wildfires or hurricanes? The Rotary world, the entire world comes together through the Rotary Foundation to help us in the United States, for partners to help partners around the world. So Rotary, of course, is helping to make the world a better place. Please join us and give to the Rotary Foundation. We're looking for everybody to help. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Joe, Michael. We can convey our thanks to Michael online and Shannon for that awesome presentation about the Rotary Foundation campaign. And we will hear more from Joe next week. This goes through the month of November, and we will conclude the first week of December. All right. How many Rotarians were at the Halloween party last week? Raise your hand. Okay, David Kirsten, could you tell us about what happened at the party?
Sure, President Mary, and I know we have some pictures to show that I took, and I will put the link to the full set of pictures on social media, and I believe Dudley's bringing up the photos here. But if you didn't go, you missed a great event. It was an amazing location here at the Chapel of the Chimes in Oakland, and we also had a great costume party, and there was some very impressive costumes. So here's the event here. Thanks to Carla and the entertainment committee for the great work. There was an outdoor bar, indoor bar. There's Ed in his Grim Reaper costume letting everyone in. I put a few special effects here, but the decorations were incredible. They had a number of Halloween decorations. There was also a DJ, and here's the start of the costume contest, which my daughter there is the witch. We're grateful that she won the most artistic, along with Julie for the Empress costume, which the Empress costume is on the next slide, I believe. Maybe it's on the
Yeah.
oh, there it is at the top, yeah, of that one. You can see the Empress costume, most artistic. The most original, Pat Williams, the Devil on Vacation, and Mark Miller, the train conductor, and I believe we have those on the next slide. So there's my daughter on the bottom there. Here's Devil on Vacation. I love those creative costumes. And there's Mary giving the awards out, as you can see, and the train conductor for Mark Miller. Now that was most original costume for Pat and Mark. Most gruesome, we had two winners. Dudley Thompson, I tried to track down a photo for past President Dudley, but I couldn't get one. But he
I was a ghost.
Pardon?
I was a ghost.
Yeah,
I was dead.
he eluded the camera. I swore I took a picture, but it didn't pop up. And then the Ed Braille was the Grim Reaper. He also won for most gruesome. So great party. I'll put the link to some more photos in the chat, and thanks for the time to share the photos, President Mary.
Yeah, and I also want to mention that the DJ was also the creator of all those decorations inside the chapel, and they were not store-bought. They were hand created. So that's talking about the artistic genius of Ed Braille's DJ. So, and we talked, Ed says, he mentioned that this is the first annual Halloween party. So hint, hint, there might be a second annual. So let's Tom Lamone work on it for next year. But anyway, I'm glad that those who came had a good time, and I enjoyed it. I was the doctor. And they say, is there a doctor in the house? Yes, but don't call me if there's an emergency. All right, thank you. And okay, at this point, I'd like to ask Joe Parrott, could you introduce our guest speaker?
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce John Mathers. He is a climate advocate, Rotarian, and business advisor, probably in that order. And President Mary and I were very fortunate to have gone to the San Francisco Chinatown Rotary meeting yesterday, and John was presenting. And it was such an excellent program. We really wanted to see if he couldn't speak to us, and within 24 hours, due to the way things worked out, he was very gracious about scheduling us in. But he is the past president of the Rotary Club of San Francisco. He is a business advisor and personal coach with Evo Associates in Mill Valley. But he's also an active climate reality project leader. His interest in the environment has been lifelong, following in the family footsteps of his namesake and great uncle, George Bird Grinnell, founder of the Audubon Society and father of the Glacier National Park. He is working with fellow Rotarians to build a network of clubs focused on taking action and sharing project results. John has spoken to a number of US and international venues on the climate crisis, and he speaks to the timely need for all of us to step up to address this existential crisis for our families and our communities. So thank you, John, and welcome to Oakland number 3.
So, so you did get the $20 I handed you yesterday. No, it's a pleasure to be with you. I am going to share my screen. Let me know if for some reason you can't see that. But I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm pleased that to hear about Guatemala and the work you're doing there. It's fabulous because it hits all of the key issues associated with farming. So let me go forward. I want to talk today a little bit different from what I did yesterday. I want to talk about the concept of the Net Zero Rotary Club. And to do that, let's start with where we are, which some of these slides will be familiar to Mary and Joel. This is the world that we're living in right now. At 1.2 degrees Celsius. For each 0.1 degrees Celsius additional, we get more of the same, or more severe of the same. And all of us are seeing this. That's a rain bomb. If you've never heard of it, it can drop anywhere from 3 to 5 inches in half an hour to an hour. But it seems like Rotary has stepped up to do something about this. So if you haven't, can everybody see the top line there? If I raise this up. If you haven't read the IPCC report from 21-22 prior to COP26, it made it really clear that we have a code red for humanity. And the UN Secretary General has taken action over and over again to bring out what it is that's actually happening. The target was 43% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030. Currently, even though it says 14%, currently the estimate is 16% increase over that period of time. So we're not doing, the science and public opinion are giving timid climate policies a giant fail mark. And why? A lot of people say it's too far away from my life, somewhere else or in another future. Who cares if Miami is 6 meters underwater in 100 years? We're not going to be around. Or they say it's not visible to the naked eye, if it's not visible, it doesn't exist. Does the frog notice the heat as it slowly turned up? And the last one is the most important. Economic loss. I like my life, good or bad, and I don't want to change it. So whether we like it or not, our blue marble, our Earth, is in fact perfect. It is perfectly balanced. It will maintain perfect balance whether we are around or not. And that's the fear that I have, is that we may not be around. There's things we need to do to make a difference. We actually have 3 different actions that we need to take in order to move to a renewable future, a sustainable future over a period of time. The first is mitigation, adaptation, and restoration. That's mitigation means we plan for what it is that's going to happen and do something about it. Adaptation is we deal with the crisis as it shows up, but restoration is something we don't spend a lot of time on. That has to do with reducing the amount of carbon that's in the atmosphere already. The Paris Accord does not speak to that. That's something that has to be done on a legislative, a government basis. And we need to shift subsidies and regulate emissions. Right now, $6.1 trillion are given as subsidies to fossil fuel around the world. Right now, 6.1 trillion versus renewables, which are 1.2 trillion. And the last is we need to deal with our lifestyle. And that's what I want to talk about. Is our government committed to preserving the planet? You know, this is what the top 11 countries, this is in the developed world. This is, yes, 21% say that our government is actually devoted to doing something about climate change. And the IRA recently passed shows that we're interested in doing something. It's interesting, Singapore, which has a tremendous amount of control, is way up there in as a example of what is possible. But then you look at the level of concern about climate change, personally concerned about climate change versus global environmental challenge. Yes, 78% say, yes, we're concerned. But then we have to look at, are you willing to change your lifestyle? And, you know, versus stricter regulation. Would you like stricter regulation? In the United States, 74% say, yeah, I want more stricter regulation. Are you willing to change your lifestyle to allow for that to happen? No. That's interesting. So yes, we are very much interested in the climate crisis, but are we willing to change our lifestyle to do something about it? And our footprint is something we have to look at. We're in the developed world. We represent in our world the global impact of greenhouse gases. We're at 14% of the total, but we also are the ones that have done the most damage over time in contributing to greenhouse gases. So what is it that we can do? If you look at our footprint, we are way out of whack with the rest of the world. Europe and North America represent 40% of the contribution, whereas even China, although they are the leading contributor right now to greenhouse gases, they only have 8 trillion. This is, I think it's tons per person. So if you look at this, you see that Canada, the US, and Europe, as well as Australia, are the leading, whereas Asia is not having the same kind of impact. And here we have the impact of fossil fuels, and you can see that the wealthiest 21% are coming from the world's wealthiest 1%. So we have responsibility to do something about that. All of us in these developed countries have a responsibility to do something that deals with the fact that World Wildlife Fund sees us going to no wild this is 00, it looks like 2028, there will be no wild areas. That means that migration patterns will have been stopped and there will be barriers in one form or another. That's terrifying. But more than that, look at what we do when we spend all of our time and energy going out and shopping. I don't say that that's bad, but it's interesting to note that, I'm sorry, I haven't done this presentation in a while, but I thought you might enjoy looking at what it is that takes to actually do a net zero club. Currently, we spend an immense amount of money, $2.6 billion a year on wrapping paper for Christmas. So consumption is one of the biggest issues that we have to deal with. And this is something I showed yesterday at the Chinatown Club. If you want to save 1,300 gallons of water, which we're all concerned about, then don't flush your toilet for 6 months, or don't take a shower for 3 months, or don't eat a hamburger for lunch. And I showed this yesterday, and I think it's really important to understand that a very small portion of our planet is built environment, whereas we have agriculture taking up a certain amount of space, but the most, right now, the most advanced and the biggest amount comes from grazing. And grazing, as you know from Guatemala, grazing land kills the soil, and it stops the soil from being able to capture and sequester carbon. So it's a huge issue that we have to address. And we seem to be waking up. It seems like the answer to me is radical hope. You do what's necessary now. You look at your own life, you look at your club, you look at your environment, you do what is possible, and suddenly the impossible is happening. So we have positive tipping points. One of them is electric production. We are beginning to clean up our electric production, and renewables are coming online, and they tend to be as cost effective as the impact of fossil fuels. We also have clean transportation. More and more EVs are out there, and more solutions for transportation are moving towards electric or something similar. And we're actually doing something about our diet. There is more awareness now than there ever has been on doing something with our diet to reduce our meat usage and to replenish the soil. Most of these require some kind of regulation or government involvement, and that's very important going forward. So we can create a sustainable world. We can have economic goals, social responsibility, and environmental protection all at the same time. But what do we need to do that? We need organizations like Rotary. We need Rotary to do more now than ever before. So I hope all of you have read the environmental area, the 7th area of focus and the policy statement. But if you haven't, let me just identify some of the items on it. Protect and restore terrestrial biodiversity, freshwater, coast, and marine. To do peace building, human wildlife, train and conserve. The third has to do with sustainable agroecology, agro awareness, aquaculture, indigenous, and food security. The fourth has to do with renewable energy, clean cooking, and transportation. And the fifth has to do with adaptation and resilience and support for the vulnerable. And the sixth is environmental education and advocacy initiatives. So this has to do with educating the world around us and educating our leaders. The seventh has to do with circular economies and food waste. very important. And all of these are areas where you could spend hours doing research and hours talking about it. And the last has to do with public health and toxins, but it's environmental justice, meaning dealing with inequality. So based on the Rotary policy, if we do 4 things, you can actually create a net zero club. And that means making the commitment, advocating out there in the world, taking action, and assessing your own footprint. So there's 8 different steps to a net zero club. First, understand and commit. Share and discuss the climate crisis, the science, the projections, the solutions. The IPCC report, although it's, I think, a total of 10 or 12,000 pages, if you go online, there are ways in which you can access aspects of it that give you an understanding of what's happening in your area. Local, regional, national, and global emission reduction targets, you can understand all of the issues and how they relate to your particular location. And it's important for us to share our lifestyle issues in the developed world. I really like to travel. I love traveling, and I've traveled for the last, for the last 50 years. I've traveled extensively. My business, I was traveling anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000 miles a year. So I love traveling. I have stopped doing that because it represented 85% of my footprint. So 84%. So what can you do, and how can you look at your lifestyle in the developed world? And define the level of participation that you would like to have in creating a net zero club. And then commit to it with an intentional target date. Could be 5 years, could be 10 years, whatever it is, an intentional target date for when the club would actually be net zero. So make a statement to the world. You can go to the Global Climate Pledge, which is our partner, and you can commit as a club or an individual, and that's important, a club or an individual, to yes, we want to do something and we're committed to doing it. And here are things that we would like to be involved with. The Assisi Manifesto deals with inequality, and you can go and actually on our website, you can access that and you can sign it and say, yes, I think inequality is something we have to handle through as we deal with the climate crisis. And obviously, I want all of you, if you haven't become a member of SRAG, it's an opportunity for us to, as members, to be able to say to to Rotary International, we think this is important and we need to do something about it and we need to focus on it. And as far as your footprint, you need to do the assessment as an individual through dealing with the club administration. You need to create and manage the club's online group and develop an emissions reduction plan. Now, there are lots of different programs that you can use. The one that we like the best is Bright Action, because what they do is, if you look at the bottom left, they actually will give you, set up a club account for you, and everybody inputs to it. And what, interestingly, we've seen that clubs and organizations that have done this, in the first month when people actually did individual assessments, even if the whole club, all the members didn't do it, what they did discover is they saved anywhere from $200 to $500 a year on their heating, and they saved tons of carbon as a result of that, all just in the first month. And then consider your personal and your business travel and your action outside of the club. The Global Footprint Network is something that is supported by SRAG. It's an opportunity for you to look at what it is that you do in business. You can get a green certification for your business, which is wonderful. You actually will learn a lot from doing that. And when you travel, for me, I travel, you go to TerraPass and I figure out how much money it would cost if I wanted to buy the carbon offsets. And I take that money and I give it to our Rotary Climate Action Team at San Francisco Rotary Club. So we actually give it back to our club as a way in which to build the resources to do something, especially do something international. And right now, the focus of what we're doing, and I would love to have Oakland support this, we are building reefs that can replace the ones that have been killed over the last period of time. If you didn't know, there's a disease that's going through and has now covered all of the brain coral around Florida and is now going throughout the entire Caribbean. So what we're doing in right now in Central America, around Florida and in the Gulf, is we're building rotary reefs, and they are actually a rotary wheel on little platforms. They're using concrete that doesn't have an impact on the environment when it's being created. And they're 10 to 12 feet wide. Each one costs about $1,850. It's our intention in the next short period of time to put 108 of them out for Rotary clubs to buy into and install. What's curious about it is we actually combine that with travel to where the installation is going to take place and doing an environmental visit and using the offsets from the travel in order to be able to have people enjoying themselves and learning about what's happening with coral reefs, and at the same time enjoying a travel together. If you want to know more about that, please have Joel give me a call and I'll work on that with him. So the last question I would have is your retirement account, is it green? Have you looked at what you're invested in? And that's very important, because to the extent that what we're doing is we're supporting fossil fuel companies and organizations and services, we're actually allowing it to continue. And have you looked at your club's foundation or reserves? Have you looked at the club's foundation and seen what you're invested in? There are methodologies and people that can help you actually look at and assess your foundation's investments and what would it would take to move to a more sustainable portfolio. What's interesting to me is that we've looked at our portfolio in San Francisco. We're making the changes. We've made a number of them already. And what we found is that the investments in renewables and sustainable is very close to the same return that we were getting from some of the investments in not sustainable and fossil fuel organizations. So take action. That means actually looking at what it is that you would like to do in the way of projects. You're already doing wonderful projects internationally. I assume, based on talking to Mary, that you're doing wonderful projects around the environment locally. And if what you did was everybody was giving money back for when they traveled, as an example, when we went to Houston, all of the people from our club that went to Houston gave $52, I think it was, which was the cost of a regular airfare and staying in a hotel for, I think it was 4 nights. And they gave it to the club, and the club now has that money to be able to spend on other projects. If you don't know Drawdown, Project Drawdown, they have wonderful material. And John Dunn's Speed and Scale has a list of areas where you could actually do projects. And here are examples of projects. I'm not going to go into them, but you can look at educating people about EVs. You can actually, we developed a recipe book for Rotary clubs so that you could actually do mindful eating, which might be one club meeting a month where it's plant-based. And advocating, which I think is incredibly important. You do it as an individual, you do not do it as a club. 501c3 doesn't allow us that, but there are plenty of organizations, including the Citizens Climate Lobby, which has a Rotary group within it, started by my co-chair from Northfield, Minnesota. Get involved. See what you can do and what you'd like to do and how extensive you'd like to be involved in actually pushing on our civic leaders and our national leaders to do something. So you can do an assessment of your community's clean energy plan. You can do an assessment of the county plan. You can do an assessment of the state plan and see how it is that your club fits in and projects that might work in that arena. And then the last, obviously, you need to track and measure the progress on an ongoing basis. This is these are the things that you can do to make a difference if you decided you wanted to do a net zero club. It's a huge undertaking and it requires organization and it requires thought, but it's worth doing. And lastly, I'm going to put this up.
The climate
for a minute and
crisis
45
is all
seconds.
around us this year. And we're only at 1.2 degrees Celsius. Current estimates put us at close to 3 degrees Celsius by 2050. We need to take action now. Rotary clubs are perfectly positioned in their communities as business and civic leaders to advocate and take action to make a difference. This means connecting with other clubs and engaging with other community leaders. Yes, we need to take physical and societal action to address the crisis, but right now, what we need to do is build commitment through communication and cooperation. We're holding a global climate action forum in Assisi, Umbria, Italy, this November 26th and 27th. The purpose of this forum is to acknowledge the threat of climate change, connect clubs across continents, and present 3 challenges for Rotarians and Rotary clubs in 2023. Saturday's event will be accessible across 4 continents. Sunday's session will be focused on in-person concerns. Please join us in Assisi, online or in person. The list of speakers and the message is important now and into the next year. Check out our website and register for the event using these QR codes. Please join us for this important Rotary Global event.
That's my advertisement for our Assisi event. Would love to have all of you online. It will be in the morning here in California, and it'll be across the country and across the 4 different continents. So, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat about all of this with you. And I love the work that you're doing. And any questions, I would love to have them. So I will stop sharing. Joel, Mary?
Okay.
Mary.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, John. Rotarians and guests, if you have a question to ask of John, could you please put it in the chat and I will ask your question and have John answer. Either that or you. Oh, Will Hobbs says, could you put the conference QR code up again so that he can take a picture?
Oh, sure, absolutely. There we go. No, hold on a second. There.
All right, everybody put your camera. Smile.
It should be a very interesting event. We have representatives from the Vatican, from Al Gore's group. We have 2 different large districts. We currently went out and did an outreach to 50,000 Rotarians in Europe. So it should be a very interesting event. And it really does present the challenges that we need to commit to over the next year.
Okay,
And
Thank
I will
you.
now drop that.
all right. And Joe Garaka asked a question. What is the cost of a coral reef?
The cost of building it and installing it is $1,850. And what we're trying to do is get individual clubs. We'd like to get 108. I think we got something like 40 so far that commit, and then pick the area where you want it. Clubs in Texas have decided that they would like to have a series of rotary reefs in the shape of Texas, which doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay, and is that, so are you coordinating that type of
No, but
fundraising?
I can put you in touch with the people that are doing it. It's part of our leadership group that are putting this on.
Okay, yeah, if you could send it to Joe, and then maybe we see if Oakland Rotary has some funds to contribute. It's $1,800. That's a doable type of contribution.
Yeah.
And Shannon asked the opposite. What is the cost of losing a coral reef?
Well, the issue with the coral reefs is that they are the base upon which fish and wildlife form. They release, first of all, they provide habitat when they die, and you can see this in the Great Barrier Reef. When they die, the fish move away, and they move to wherever they can go. Right now, the acidity, as the oceans change and there's more acidity, the reefs are dying, and they are the foundation stone for coastal, sequestering carbon and providing nutrition and habitat for the fish. So it's having a huge impact. I'm not an expert on it, but we have had a couple of people talking about it at our forums, and it's huge. And if you take a look at what's happening in the Great Barrier Reef and get an understanding of it, it's worth doing a review. That makes a big difference. Anyway, we've seen in 6 months that fish and the coral that we're growing is adapted to the locations where we're putting the reefs. So it takes root within 6 months, and you get fish coming in, and it's absolutely amazing to see. And you can actually, we've got a video that actually shows you what happens over time.
Okay, thank you. And in interest of time, and we're going to continue. Well, John, thank you very much for that awesome and fascinating presentation. Even though I saw it twice, it doesn't matter. It's something new each time I learn. So education is my area of focus for this year. And the Rotary Club of Oakland is proud to partner with Oakland Promise to offer 8 $10,000 scholarships annually, along with Rotary mentorships. We are proud to support as the many first in their family to attend college. In recognition of your presentation today, Oakland Rotary will make a donation in your name to the Oakland Promise to support its kindergarten to college program for every child in our city. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Now, does any Rotarian have any celebration or special events to share? Well, I like to make I like to do a bell ringer for John Mathers. I mean, we had another speaker scheduled for today, but due to internet issues, he was not able to speak on Zoom. So yesterday, I call John on the phone and says, John, you did such a wonderful presentation at the San Francisco Rotary Club. Can you be able to fill in for us with your presentation and even modify it for us today to come and speak? And with little hesitation, he says, of course, I'll be happy to do it. So in your honor, I'd like to ring a bell for you. Can you hear that? So a bell ringer is a generous tax-deductible donation of $100 to our Rotary, Oakland Rotary Endowment in your honor. So I just wanted to, and I'm so happy that Rotarians can step in to help other Rotarians, and you were a lifesaver today. All right, so Tricia, would you tell us about next week's speaker?
Yes, thank you, President Mary. So as you know, President Mary's focus this year is on education. So next week's speaker is Cheryl Cotton. She is the Deputy Superintendent of Public Instruction with the California Department of Education. She is responsible for instruction and curriculum and resources for teachers, and she'll be talking to us about the state of our school districts and the changing curriculum, and also the state's goals for the future for our teachers and our students. We look forward to having her next week.
Thank you, Tricia. I also noticed online some of Ramona Chang's guests that I like to recognize. I saw Peter Chang. I saw Maggie Castillo-Munoz. I saw Sanaya T. Tai. I saw Frankie Hartwell, Jennifer G., and Wendy McClay. Thank you for coming to share Ramona's induction as a new member to Rotary. So at this point, I'd like to also thank you, Robert Kidd, for the thoughts of the day, Ramona Chan for joining us as a new member, David Kirsten for the follow-up report on the spooky Halloween social mixer, Joe Caracca, Michael Bakal, and Shannon Hackley for the TRF rollout campaign, Joe for introducing this week's speaker, John Mathers for the awesome presentation and lifesaver, Tricia Connor for the teaser for next week's speaker, and the production team for managing this meeting. I'm looking forward again for next week. There's another Zoom only meeting next week, so don't come to the ballroom. So share, which means thank you and everyone, and this meeting is adjourned. Bye.